Hey everyone, Vanessa here. In this week's episode of Coffee with Kalea, we're talking about the importance of surrounding ourselves with the right people, both in a personal and a professional sense, and how that can really influence our happiness and our overall success. And with that said, so Megan, I have to say how much I appreciate you and how much I feel that this duo really allows us to see how well we complement one another, with our strengths, and really how it was meant to be, how our paths continue to cross over the last decade.
When you say last decade, it's kind of crazy to think that for 10 years we've been weaving in and out of each other's lives,
I know.
but always with this common thread of leadership and motivation. And so I think it's pretty special that we've managed to remain connected.
Me too.
It's served a purpose for sure.
It definitely has.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm not surprised that we landed here, because you find people in your life that work, and
Yes.
This is definitely one of those relationships. So I have to applaud you as well for all your strengths, because
I agree.
you push me constantly, which is fabulous. And
I feel the same way about you.
So yeah, we'll get into our story another day of the ins and outs. But so today we're talking about people in our lives and those relationships. So the first question I'll ask you today is, do you believe that people are placed in our lives for a reason, or that we are subconsciously selecting them without really knowing it?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I mean, so I kind of see it from two different views, I guess. I mean, there is this quote, and if you don't mind, I'll read it, just because I don't want to mess it up and add a few other words. But the quote states, and I'm sure our listeners have heard this one and seen it before. So the quote states, "In your life, you will realize that there is a role for everyone you meet. Some will test you, some will use you, some will love you, and some will teach you. But the ones who are truly important are the ones who bring out the best in you. They are the rare and amazing people who remind you why it's worth it." And that's Unknown is the author. So, I feel that, in a way it's out of our control, who we cross paths with. But I do agree that at the same time, I think if we're in tune to understanding ourselves and knowing who we are and our values, that we will, in a way, like naturally select who we surround ourselves with. So, and who our circle is. I think there's some people, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that the minute they come into your life, whether it's in person or virtually, you just know that they were always meant to be there. And for some people, it seems like you've known them for your entire life and you've only known them for a half hour or something, right? So it is interesting. And it's also what I feel is interesting is, I've attended lots of events before where I don't know anyone. And I always am amazed at how I naturally gravitate, like my energy or anything really, to certain people. And then to others, not so much. And not that that's a bad thing. It's just, it's always amazing to me. Well, so what do you find?
Well, I think personality also has a lot to do with it too.
Yes.
Because there are certain energies that we're attracted to. And I think that we see ourselves sometimes in the people that we connect with. Right. So it's complementing behaviors or excitement. So, and it's never a surprise when it's not just people in your own age group or social network. So I think about my personal circle is our age ranges are 20 years apart.
Right.
So I think that is so neat so I'm the youngest in our friend group, and then, it goes into the 50s.
That's special though.
But it's like we're all so close and connected, even though we may be in different stages of our lives.
Yes.
We all offer something to each other that really is just magical and positive. And so it's that attracted law of attraction, I guess. If that makes sense.
To people, for sure it does.
Yeah. So I think we are subconsciously selecting the people that we want to include in our everyday. And I think there's always going to be layers of relationships. So you dig deep into certain ones and are spending more time there. And then you'll have more surface relationships with those that maybe are a little less involved in your daily life or
Right,
personal
which
life.
changes over time, really, right? Depending on your circumstance and really your life stage and a number of other things. So when you say selecting, your few, so what types of people like do you feel like you need in your circle to continue thriving? Like,
Mm,
do you want people
goodness.
that inspire you or help you grow or that teach you something, or maybe all of those three?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think that there has
Yeah.
to be a combination of people who offer, the fun as well. So
I forgot
and
about fun.
fun
Fun is there. Yeah.
and energy.
Hmm.
But also, I find if I look at my closest circle, we all have things in common. So, similar interests. We like to get outside, we'll ski, bike, that active social component. But when I look at who we are behind that initial person, um, there's a lot of mentorship in those friendships as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like I
With the
was
different life stages, right?
yes. And so I find it inspiring and motivating to be surrounded by people who are also driven. They're
Mm-hmm.
also looking to have success in their life. And it lifts me up and gives me encouragement. So that that is what I look for in those relationships, which is
Yes.
purposeful. How about you?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think I could echo you on all those comments for sure. I think for me, like I need people in my life that will celebrate with me when I'm feeling really good and I've accomplished something, but then would be there when I'm at my lowest points and really need encouragement and, maybe just going through a tough time. So, and for me, like I think at one point I thought my circle could do both, that people could do both. And I don't think that's fair to expect people to do both. And so I think that has been a big realization for me, is that, yeah, those two groups of people could look different, and we can't
Right.
expect people to do both.
Yeah, and it's pretty magical, I think, when they can do both, though, too.
Yeah. And there
Um,
are those special people
there
that can,
are. And,
yes.
and how would you say, I know personally, I find it as an adult a lot more challenging to find new people to add to
Mm,
your very personal life.
yes.
Do you find the same, that it's not, it's like dating almost?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's difficult when you have kids, so, you're busy on that end too. And I think, you're working a lot and when you're married and you don't have that maybe big social circle as much. So it is difficult, but I think for me, that's why I just love like volunteering on boards and just doing community activities, because with that, you're associating with like-minded people. And, I think, that I I guess my favorite board to be on is one that has a diverse, like, professional base and variety of ages and stages, and because I just think you learn so much
Mm-hmm.
from being with a diverse group. And you mentioned things like being driven and all of that. I think like-minded people are just naturally going to be attracted, right, to one another. So
Yeah, and I think also the ability to have meaningful conversation with
mm,
people, it allows us to grow and have perspective. So I know your word last week was perspective,
mm,
and I believe that the conversations we have with others allows us to see things differently or have a new lens or a new opinion. And although
yes.
you may not agree with an idea or a thought, I love when friends and people in your network can challenge your ideas in a meaningful way. So you can think of it from a
Yes.
different point of view, and maybe it'll allow you to solidify why, you might think a certain thing or believe a certain way. And
Yes.
so meaningful conversation, I would say, is one of the highlights of relationships for me too.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually just realized what I just said. I said two things in the same sentence that didn't really make much sense. So I said that I like to be in a diverse group. And then I also said that it was like-minded people. So interesting that I said that.
True. Oh
Maybe,
my gosh, I didn't even catch on that.
I think maybe our listeners are probably hearing that. And that's interesting that I caught myself with that. And I think it just speaks to how, um, I like both, right? I love to be challenged on my thoughts and my viewpoints. At the same time, I get a whole lot of satisfaction when someone's like in sync with me and just like, understands what I'm saying. So you
So
can
to
have both,
circle
I
back,
guess.
yeah, to circle back to that though, don't you think that in a lot of ways you can be like-minded but have different points of view?
Mm,
So just because
yes.
you're not maybe aligned in how you think about one topic, it doesn't mean you
Right.
disagree. It means that your
Yeah.
interpretation might be a little bit different. And we've had that happen with us before,
We have.
where we'll read the same thing and we'll come back and discuss it. And it's like, this is what I took. This is what
Right.
you took. And then we'll come out and go, oh my gosh, that's the full picture.
And that's the complete picture. Yeah, exactly.
So maybe
So,
that's where that diversity comes in, and it's not being like-minded. It's
mhm.
that point of view of people who believe in the same things you do.
Right. Okay. That's perfect. I totally agree. And I think if you're surrounded by people that are open-minded, that's even better, right? Because then they're like, "Oh, I haven't thought of it that way. Help me to understand more about that," right? And they just want to learn, right? So,
Yeah.
um, okay,
So
perfect.
cool. Oh, I
Got it.
love it.
I love
That's
it too.
great.
So do you find that you look for, we talked about, maybe the personal side and, last week we discussed, work-life balance, but do you find you're trying to surround yourself with the same type of people, both in your personal and professional life? And is there anything in your professional life or that network that is a bit different?
So my professional network is very different now in what I do.
Right. Right.
Um, I interact with a lot of people in the same profession, negotiating and things like that, but I don't really have sort of those colleagues. Like they're not
Mm.
working alongside me. We're
Day to
working
day.
day to day.
Right.
So I find that it's not like I'm working in a company where there's a lot of camaraderie or partnerships. It's
Hmm.
really, I'm sort of a lone wolf.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like you're not working as part of a team to accomplish like a certain task. It's very
no,
independent,
yeah,
right?
and we work for our clients to achieve that goal.
Right.
But I do notice certain, um, personalities that I enjoy working with more than others, and
Mm,
you get that energy through a lot of conversation, and so you get really great um, sort of experiences, and then you have some less enjoyable experiences because the energies coming through are very different. And you can tell
right.
on day one from the first email or the first phone call how it's going to go.
So
So
true.
it's it's kind of fascinating because you become a really intuitive to personality and
Right.
dealing with that. So I think in some ways, in previous jobs or past careers before shifting, um, I would look for sort of those professional relationships that we're on the same page. We want to move forward, right? So
Hmm.
taking ideas and putting them into action.
Okay.
So, yeah, if that
It
makes
no, it does. It totally does. And I think you just talked about, the personalities and just kind of behaviors and how they approach life. I think of it as like the same, really. I mean, I think if you can't really separate the two, if you're showing up, and I mentioned this last week, wholeheartedly, both at home and at work, you're showing up as your full person.
yeah,
Like, why would that look any different, right? So,
yeah.
um,
And do you find
it's
this obviously the same? Like you're
same
not
thing.
changing
Not
what you
really.
value.
No, I think for me over the last probably a year or so, though, 10 years ago, I thought the broader the network, the more people in your network, the better, and would
Mhm.
just like, large, like volumes of people, not really paying attention to how they were going to add value to my career and then how I was going to add value to theirs. But so I've done a lot of reading on, the power of maybe more of a strategic network. And then, the idea of like a core four. So you need, someone who's going to keep pushing you to do more, like a butt kicker, and then like a promoter. So someone that, if you're not in the room, like they're going to inspire you, but not only inspire you, but also not be afraid to talk about your potential and
Mhm.
be your cheerleader when you're not present, which is huge.
Yep.
um, and then I always talk about having that teacher, that person you go to for words of wisdom. And then you also need someone who's just going to keep you on track. And I can, we'll talk about our word that we're going into for the week with, but I can get off track in terms of just sometimes, just kind of getting a bunch of things going on all at once, and then not really focused on, okay, where am I headed? So you need someone who's going to bring you back on the trail and say, okay, refocus, and where do you want to go from here? And keep adjusting, right? So it really doesn't look much different for me, but I think I've said, okay, I need a smaller, more strategic, closer circle of 4 key people, and also being okay with that network changing, right?
Right.
So if I start a new job, or I'm set a new goal for work, or my 5-year plan changes, then those core 4 are going to change, and to not feel bad about that, right?
Right. Yeah, very true. I think that there's a place for people to come and go as well.
Yes.
We all have those friends that you can pick up the phone after a year or two, and it's exactly the same as it was 10 years ago. Right. And there are a select few of those. But then you also have to remember which friendships or relationships don't bring value anymore either, because it's okay to drift apart. And I think that there's a lot of acceptance that has to happen for protecting your world.
Yes.
And if it doesn't feel good anymore, and you leave those experiences or conversations feeling just down or negative,
right,
maybe there's not space for that right now. Maybe you have to remove it and be okay with that. And it's sad that sometimes that is some of the people that are closest to you at various times in your life.
Yeah.
It could be, your best friend. It could be a sibling, a parent, a relative of some sort. But you have to own that it's your life too, and you're allowed to protect those things, because if you're in tears or
it's not healthy.
upset,
it's not healthy. Yeah,
no.
Totally.
And especially if you're trying to motivate yourself into this positive life change or arena and showing up in your life, then you have to bring the people who are going to support you and be there with you.
Absolutely.
In any capacity. So they're going to be there to, like you said, be the inspiration or the cheerleader and highlight that. And it's amazing. People's colors come through pretty fast.
It is so true. And I think, you talked about acceptance last week, and, I think that's another powerful word right here, like accepting that some people just cannot be in the arena with you at certain times in your life. And then, at that point, maybe their opinions or their feedback, just, you cannot hear it, right? Like it will not be good for you. So it's, and that goes back to our first question to one another. Like, we do have some control about who we're surrounding ourselves with. And that's just a perfect example, right? So,
yeah. And so getting energy from other people too, right? So how do you sort of look at getting that encouragement from others, or leaning on people? Do you find that comes naturally, or is that a challenging thing for you?
I'm a better helper than I am allowing someone to help me. So, although I'm getting better at it. So, I think when a younger version of myself would say, like, I'm independent, I can do life, and I'm strong enough. If I need to get a job done, I can do it faster than inviting others to join. But then, as life goes on, you have experiences that show you that you can't do it on your own, and it's not a single race. Then you're more accepting of sharing that, right? And then you realize, like, wow, I can be present in other areas, or then you just allow yourself also to just be open and develop a better relationship with other people too. And at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of people out there that want to help, right? And I would be happy to do that. So it's coming for me for sure. What about you?
It's funny. I don't know why, I just had a flashback to, I guess 6 years ago, when you were chairing a committee or a board, one of the seats on a same organization, and you had asked me to take on a role. And I said yes initially.
I
And
remember
then
that.
2 months in, I just gone on mat leave. I had a newborn. I had this, I just panicked. I was like, I can't
Do it
do
all.
this.
Yeah.
Like, I just knew I wasn't going to. And to sort of, for me, after coming out of such a time of life where I felt like I was really on fire sort of, and getting a lot done,
Yeah.
was a
Momentum. And
hard thing to do. Pick up the phone and say, Vanessa, I can't do
I
this.
can't do it. I remember
Because
that phone conversation. Yeah.
I felt like I was showing this weakness all of a sudden.
And I didn't think of it as a weakness at all. I was like, she has her stuff together enough to know like what she can handle.
And I
right
remember you were really receptive, but I just know that was feelings that I had were,
now.
oh no, what's this hold for the future? Maybe she won't come back around and ask if I want to participate in something she's doing again.
Right.
So it's interesting that we have these moments in time, but that also shows that the people in your life and the places that you show up, it's
Right.
important to have those aligned values. Because you
Absolutely.
should be able to pick up the phone and explain that life is happening,
And
or
that
I
they would
can't show up.
truly understand, right? Because they themselves have gone through that, or just know that, yeah, that's life, right? And
Yeah.
it's so true. But and you said you do absorb the energy from others, and that would be, you still feel that way, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read negativity. Like, it's like I have an odometer that just, I can read it when I go into a
Yeah.
room, and it's like an energy sucker.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a leech.
Yeah, it is true. It is. And I think if that's why you just try to surround yourselves with positive people. And not everyone's positive all the time, but yeah, you can tell, you just feel it.
Yeah.
Can't really describe it, right? So
No. And it's good to know that you can surround yourself with positive people and have
yes,
those choices.
and choose to
So
do so.
are there any experiences this year that you could say you've learned a lot from, or you were just in general about people, or a certain experience that you might feel different about?
Um, Probably, I mean, in thinking about, this topic today, like, and I've had this conversation with some friends too, that, um, like seeing people in person, like you don't just have to build a relationship that way. Right. And, even you and I like doing these virtual coffee dates, and we can't see each other because of the pandemic, but I think people are realizing that, you can still have a strong relationship with others in your team and not see them face to face every day. So, to me, I think I've done a better job over the years of, just being able to build those virtual relationships, and staying in touch with people. The biggest thing for me is, when I was, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I would say, that I thought I had to bring something of real significance, like when I connected with someone. And I have mentees ask me this all the time, and maybe younger students, that, like, how do you continue to build rapport with someone or develop that relationship, maybe when it's just starting out, or you're really interested in, their career or their life success or whatever. But I just said, like, just do a genuine check-in. Like, it doesn't have to be more than that. Share something that happened to you recently or whatever, but it's just about that genuine connection. And it's just a, how are you doing? Like, that, it doesn't have to be more than that. Some people just feel like they have to, like I said, bring something of greater significance, but it's not
Well,
the
it's interesting you say that. I think that one of the things you can do to reach out is, if you see something that makes you think of that person,
case.
send it.
Mm-hmm.
Just share it. And
Yes.
this
Yes.
week alone, I've had 2 instances where that's been the case, where I've sent something to someone, and
Yeah.
then someone has sent something to me unexpectedly. And
And how
it's
awesome does that feel, right?
amazing feeling to go,
Yes.
wow, that is so meaningful
Yeah.
that you thought of me, and you paid attention to something that might be useful
That's
in
right.
that time. So that intuition, or being intuitive of others' needs, and how you can pass on information or kindness, or thought you might
Right.
like this. That's a great icebreaker to just check in and keep people top of mind.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I
So,
think it kind of goes along the same lines of, remember my like big appreciation challenge that I did a couple months ago, where I had
yeah.
10 days of appreciating people, because that's the other thing. I just don't think we openly say, like, I love you or I appreciate you enough, right?
Yeah.
Like it just, and maybe not, yeah, maybe just not enough. And the reasons why. So I think by saying like this article reminded me of you, or this quote reminded me of you, like you're really allowing that person to say like, this is what I love about you, or this is what makes you special to me. And this is the reason why, right? So another great word. So what is your word to go into next week?
So my word for this week is going to be limitless. So
Yes. Okay.
knowing that there's a lot of potential to grow and that it is limitless. I've made some really amazing changes in the last few weeks. I've actually been alcohol free for
Ooh.
over 3 weeks. So that was a huge,
I can't say the same for myself.
we just decided until we can have drinks with people,
Right.
that we would do that. So
You're
but it
saving
was
some money.
it was a lifestyle choice too. So instead of, spending our evening having a couple glasses of wine,
Yes.
doing something else. So changing goals and allowing that limitless idea of sky's the limit. We can achieve what we set our mind to. We just have to put steps forward to get there.
Oh, I love it.
How about you? What's your
I
word?
love it. Love limitless. So actually, I mean, it just kind of flows right from your last statement. So focus is my word. So, those who know me know that I love to have many things going on at once. And I actually, I'm more productive and I get more accomplished that way. But there's points that I cannot focus very well. So my mind is in 10 different areas and I'm, presented with one task. And so this week I will just focus on the task at hand and not worry about the other things happening in the background. And, I think it will just make me more efficient as well. So hopefully by the focus, I'll get another word in there too, efficiency. So
Awesome. Yeah. With
go.
One comes another usually,
That's
right?
right. It's so true.
So I think we'll wrap it up for today. I know we've had a great
My
conversation.
coffee is almost gone. So
I know.
here we go.
Refill time.
Yes, exactly.
So thanks for tuning in. We hope that you have a wonderful Sunday, and we hope you got a few valuable pieces out of our conversation. You can also check out our podcast if you can't sit down on YouTube. You can find it on the link below. And we're looking forward to seeing you next week on Coffee with Kalea. Cheers.
Right. Cheers, guys. Bye.